As I have already installed a React, so now let's start with app.js. In app.js, let's import React. Now export default app. Here one app function, so constant app is equal to fat arrow function, and then return. Inside this return we will create one div. Class name will be main div. Inside this main div one another div, and class name of this will be center div. Now inside the center div we have one header h1 function. In that, name of the app ToDoList. After that, one input tag. The type of the input tag will be text, and the placeholder will be search activity or add activity. After this input tag we will add one button plus signature on this button. Okay, now let's run this. Open terminal, cd space my app, and then npm start. This will take some time. Here one h1 tag and input function and one button. Now add one list here. So for that we will use ordered list. So ol, and inside that list items, buy something. Okay, now add one horizontal line here and break after header. Now I have already created one app.css file here. So now let's import this app.css. Import /app.css. Let's check in the Chrome. Okay, so now I want that if I write anything here, it will appear instead of this buy something. So now let's create one React hooks. So constant name of the hook will be input, and the function will be set input is equal to use state. Now I have to import this use state. So after this React I will import this use state here. So now inside this input I will write on change and one function here, events, event. So if any change will happen inside this input function, it will call the function event. So now let's create one function event. So constant event is equal to one fat arrow function, and inside this event we will call this set input. So now set input, and we will give the value to the input is e dot target dot value, and here we will give one e. So this value we have to define this value. So inside this input function let's make value is equal to this input. Unexpected use of event. So let's check. Okay, here is the name error, event. Now whenever I will write anything here, it will call the function event, and the value of the input will given to the set input. So now let's remove this by something here and give input. Now let's go to the Chrome, and now if I write anything here, it will appear inside this list. As you can see, if I write anything here, then it will also appear inside this list. But if I remove anything, if I remove it from here, then it will also remove it from this list. So now I want that if I will click on this button, then the value of this input will be added to this list permanently. So inside this app.js, let's create one more array so we can store that all values of list. So we will create one hook. So constant name of this array will be item, and function will be set item is equal to use state. And here I want to create the array, so I will give one bracket here. So now I want that if I click on this button, then it will call any function. So now here on click, it will call one function add. Here we will create one function add is equal to one fat arrow function, and here is the function constant add. So inside this function we will call this set item. So set item, and then one fat arrow function. Inside this set item function, let's return, we have to return one array. So for this array, we want the previous items that are inside this set item. So let's give previous items, and we will return all the previous items inside that, and one more item which is nothing but this input. So here, sorry, here input, and here also input, and I have to give one more bracket. As I have created this add function here, so now if I press on, I will click on this plus button, then it will automatically call this add function, and the value of this input will add it to the array. Now let's check it. Here inside this inspect, I have opened these components. So now if I write anything here and press on this plus button, it will appear inside this array as the first element. Now if I write anything else here and press on this plus button, then it will add it to the array. But I want that if I press this plus button, it will appear at this list. So here I will simply change this input from the item. Now if I write something here and click on this button, it will appear inside this list. And if I write something else and click on this button, then it will also appear here, but it is append inside this list because we have given only one list item here. So now let's create one more list.js. Inside this list.js, import react from react, and then export default list. Here one function constant list is equal to one fat arrow function, and inside that return. Now we will remove this thing from here and call list, but we have to import the list. Now let's import list from list.js, falls outside the project source directory. Relative imports outside of source are not supported. I have to give dot slash here. Now I want all the components of this item array to add in this list. So I will map item here, item dot map. Inside this map function I will pass two parameters. First one will be value and the another will be index. After that one fat arrow function, and I will return, I will call the list, but here I have to give this in, I have to wrap this inside the curly braces. So inside this list I will give key is equal to index, id is equal to index, and the text is equal to value. So now inside this list.js I will call list elements, and inside this list elements I will call text text. But as I am passing this text from here, so I have to call props. So props, and here props dot text, pro props dot text. So as you can see, now I will write first element here, and if I press on this button it will add this first element to the list. After that second element, and if I press on this plus button it will add this second element inside this list. But as you can see, the placeholder of this input isn't showing again after clicking on this plus button. So I will add the function set input after this set item function and pass blank inside that. So now if I write first element, and as I click on this button it will automatically convert the value of this input tag to the placeholder.